Yo, how's it going? And today, I'm going to be ranking every single oath compared to one another. This is simply going from worst to best in number order. So 12 is being the worst, and number 1 is of course the best. Now with my 2 years of experience playing this game, I have played every oath. But I will have to disclose that this ranking is based on my opinion. Some oaths are just not fun to play. But let's get right into the ranking. The first oath we got at number 12 is Link Strider. I still do not like Link Strider. First off, it's annoying to get and it's annoying to prog. It's really not worth it in that case. As there being 3 separate mantras to activate all the abilities, it really isn't that fun. And second off, if you're solo, you're kind of not going to use it. I mean, sure, it slows down your opponent, but it also goes away if they hit you twice. And it really is one of the 2 only bad oaths I'd consider. Mostly just for personal preference. Link Strider in general is just one of the most boring oaths, and it's really not worth getting for all the work you do. And to finish off the bad oaths, we have Fade Trimmer at number 11. Now I know Fade Trimmer does alright damage, but at the same time, half the oath is useless, being the sprays, and the other half being a reused mantra and an okay auto parry move, as hairsprays have not really been that useful at all. 2 of them are just not good. And the healing one is not horrible, but at the same time, why would you use this instead of any other healing option? Overall, this oath is really not worth getting, unless you're specifically being silly. But now let's get on to the oaths which I consider good, starting with Oathless. Now despite it being this far down, I do not consider this bad. Now Oathless stats are actually really good. They even got recently buffed. But compared to other oaths, I don't see too much of a reason to use it. It's alright, but it really does depend on your build. Mostly if you're multi-attunement and you're high investment in it. But other than that, there really isn't too much of a reason to use it, as you get very similar stuff with just oaths in general. And moving on to number 9, we have Blind Seer. Now unfortunately, Blind Seer has been hit catastrophically over the years. But realistically, Blind Seer and Oathless are kind of interchangeable on this list. They're both not the greatest in terms of viability, but can work if you focus in on them. It wasn't too great from the start, being very annoying to prog, but Sightless Beam has always been good. However, the nerfs to Light's Final Toll have really shot it down. And Tranquil Circle isn't really the best of mantras. I mean, it works if you want to use it, but at the same time, you might as well just do Silent Heart. And another thing for Blind Seer, who is using Mind Soothe, and it's not super viable compared to other oaths, but Willpower overall is still a good stat. And speaking of good stats, let's move on to number 8, Salchemist. This is instead held back by its high stat requirement. Realistically, if you're going Salchemist, you don't want to be at 75, you want to be at 100 intel. Now Salchemist can be really strong with his infinite healing pots and speed pots. And this oath does have the potential to be good, but it is kind of limiting in your build variety. By the way, I've noticed only a small percentage of my viewers subscribe to me. I'm trying to reach 3,000 subscribers, so if you want more videos like this, you better subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Anyways, back to the video. Moving on, we have number 7, Vision Shaper. Now I know there's definitely Vision Shaper glazers. I'm looking at you, Agamatsu. But overall, this oath has been nerfed heavily over the years. Even with a Realm rework, it still isn't the greatest. Vision Shaper nowadays is really just for clone spam. And while I did like the oath for a little bit, my favorite part about it, being Illusionary Counter, has been nerfed heavily. And clones in general just die way too quickly. 3 hits does not account for multi-hits. If this change was semi-reverted, it would be a lot higher. And while it can be annoying to fight, if you do know how to fight it, it really isn't much of an issue. Unless your opponent has Shadow. Now let's move on to number 6, that being Star Kindred. Now despite it being a very solid oath, it really suffers from you really only using one mantra. Like, be real. I know Celestial Assault isn't that bad, but who competitively is using Ascension? And along with this, it has no talent at all, which is kind of ridiculous. Star Kindred could be a lot higher if they added special talents for it. I know the wings are alright, but at the same time, Jet Striker exists, which will be coming up soon. But for now, we have number 5, Silent Heart. Now, it highly depends on your build, but this oath can be really strong. The damage increase and the mantra resistance can be game changing. However, it does of course suffer from low mix-up potential. Another thing that does hold Silent Heart down is that it can be a little bit boring. but the base oath stats already make up for that. And it really is just waiting on the rework. But now we have the previously mentioned number 4, Jet Striker. The rework has made it so much better than it was before. Jet Kick hard carries. Fake Strike is also a good mix-up option, but it does get a little buggy sometimes with not all the hits landing. And overall, it's a really good oath for not much of a prog, just high-ish stats. Now we're on to top 3, which number 3 is of course Arc Order. Now this used to be my favorite oath, but over time it has been getting nerfed over and over. But overall, it is still really cool and all the mantras are worth using. Arc Wave has ridiculous range all around. You can jump up and then use it to just hit anyone below you. And Arc Beam does have a lot of range, plus it ragdolls. And it has an aerial version, which I guess you can use in some mix-ups. But the stat requirement does kind of hold it back a little bit. Not the 42 part, of course. Arc Order would be number 2 or number 1 if it had its 10 HP talent back. But for now, it sits at number 3. And now we have number 2, which is going to be a big upset. It's Dawnwalker. Now I know, a lot of people love this oath, and personally it is really easy to get for me. But let's be for real, most Dawnwalker mains are really only using it for Radiant Kick. Blinding Dawn for PvP really isn't that good, and Radiant Dawn, you can use it, it's just not super viable. And apart from this, it does have good talents, but I think it is just shy of number 1, which is Contractor. Now I would have to say this is my favorite oath now. The progression of it has only gotten easier, which you could just use the Moon's Eye Tome and get through your progression really quickly. Every mantra for Contractor is really good. Equalizer, despite getting nerfs, is still a counter. And Judgment is cool and really catches people when they keep aerial stabbing you. Lord Slice just does really good damage and it's really good for catching rolls, but it does suffer from needing a hidden tendril to use. And it having no stat requirement, this just makes a really good oath. Overall, everything about it is pretty solid, but that's every oath ranked. And since the ranking's over, let me give you a quick recap. At number 12, we had Link Strider. At number 11, we have Fade Trimmer. After Fade Trimmer, we get to the good oaths. Starting us off with number 10, Oathless. At number 9, we had Blind Seer. At number 8, we have Salchemist. At number 7, we have Vision Shaper. At number 6, we have Star Kindred. After Star Kindred, we get the top 5, with number 5 being Silent Heart. At number 4, we have Jet Striker. After Jet Striker, we get the top 3, which number 3 was Arc Warder. Number 2, we have Dawnwalker. And number 1, the best oath, is Contractor. But what do you think is the best oath? I'm sure there are going to be plenty of Dawnwalker mains going to be yelling at me in the comments, so why don't you join them? And while you're there, why don't you tell me what else I should rank? But that's pretty much going to be all in this video. See ya.